Let's start the pod. Welcome to the Side Sessions podcast. My name is Sai Jones, King Schwaz.
Sifikile futhi.
We've got a guest today. Oh, well, we always have guests, but I think I'm particularly excited about today's guest because of the conversation that we're going to have. So please help me welcome Mobi Dixon.
What up?
The one and
Welcome
only.
to the pod.
Yeah,
We're so happy to have you here. And
it's a pleasure.
the phone finish at home, by the way.
It's a pleasure. I already do. Send Punga Neko for
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at home.
Ndingathi sikwazi uhost ndingathi siyanelambisa xa nisiza kwezi zinto yayibona ningathi hey abasityisi abasifeed abasiniki hospitality sifuna nibe nonorized.
Chilled.
So how are you? I feel like I've been talking to you about during this episode, but I think recently something had happened that meant we needed to postpone it.
We needed to postpone. I was just having some health challenges related to my car accident. I think a lot of people that know me know about the car accident that happened early last year, and I thought I was fine, but it happens that I wasn't so fine. So just had to give that some attention. But I'm better now. I'm at a better place now. It's been a weird 2 months or so. But yeah, I'm good.
It's good. I think the one thing, and Sibanisita ngayo nsihlekisa ngayo apho le podcast sithi, do artists have medical aid? Number one. And then we were just talking about insuring indlebe zakho and because of this, you get me?
I'm fortunate that I do have medical aid, but that's when I saw the importance of it. I don't know how many times I said to myself, yo, babe ngiya medical aid, benzawuthini ngoku? And even with medical aid, there's certain things they won't pay for fully.
That's true. That's why I think medical aid is a scam.
It's such a scam. I was so pissed off at some things because this was like a really serious situation. At a point where, okay, if you have to pay more, take it. Because at that point, I started even referencing when you hear people when they're at their deathbed and they want to be well, they would be willing to give up all the
belongings, yes.
Everything. I had
Just
that
to be
feeling.
healthy.
I had that feeling for the first time in my life. Like it just
as long as for my health, I'll do anything.
So yeah, man, I think it's a big challenge for our industry because of the volatile, market and income. People are not able to commit to things like medical aid, and we're still trying to find ways of how can we.
Are we though?
How can we cope? No, I was at a conference last year. I was at Black Coffee's workshop.
Yes.
End of last year, and those were one of the things that were touched on, and the momentum was there as well. So I don't know how far they are with that, but I've also got my own ideas of which I'm not going to talk about today.
Because there was an idea of a union that came up on the last shoot. But he has no sitting in union, actually. Sitting in union in the industry. Like labor union.
As a person and we industry, after 20 years
after
in the game,
so long.
hey, how can we better? And by the time we leave this earth, we're leaving a better industry for the future generations. And
it's interesting, by the way, the words that you used, Uti. It's after 20 years, it's only now that you're thinking about the sustainability of the industry fuel for the future. I'm just wondering, but and then you saw and then you saw what you saw, you experienced the unsustainability. Didn't it feel like then, Uguti, you know what, we need to actively start working at this long-term sustainability?
It's always there.
It's always,
it's always, and it's conversations that keep coming up without the proper solutions.
Yeah.
Because it's unfortunately it's an industry of self-empowerment and self.
Yep.
You know, everyone is out for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't have the kind of structures like other formal industries have.
Yeah.
A simple thing like a union,
A
like
union.
you're saying, but then to start a union, who's the union gonna report to? How's it going to be recognized? Who then egos start getting involved,
Yeah.
and then who's gonna benefit financially? Who's gonna all of these things now? It becomes a competition of course. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the industry is it's man for himself. Everyone wants to empower and enrich themselves.
That's what I hate about
Yeah, well.
the industry. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I hate about it, because there are people who self-sacrifice to at least make someone else's dreams come true. At least a little bit that you can do. But Mhlambi, someone might also say that's a dream.
No, you know, I've wanted to so much, because I felt these things. I had a view of these things
Yeah.
also before I entered the industry.
Yeah.
Because I was an up and coming for a very long
For a
time.
long time.
And I could see from the outside, and I could pick up these things. Even then, when I made it, got inside, could see all of these issues, but you also in the rush. You see, when you're in that position, and I don't want to mention names.
I get you.
You know, when you are in that moment, when you are the guy, hey, I mean, a lot of things can get lost in the way. And I'm fortunate to have that perspective of being the guy and being not the guy.
Okay.
Being the guy, I'm so fortunate to have such a broad perspective from different points of view. From someone that's been trying to make it in the street industry, someone who made it in the industry, and someone who then kind of subsided.
Who settled.
So you get the different nuances and the different relationships I have with, you could say, 3 generations.
Yeah.
Because
it is.
it's like from the Kwaito era.
Yeah.
You know, I've got you know friends like Okabelo, Mabelana, you know, Kwaito guys, Oklio, Osbu, guys like that. Right up to, you know, my peers in our era, guys like Heavy K, your Shimzas, guys that we started with, right up to Oskido. Okay, Oskido's way back. Oskido's my mendo. Right up to now, you know, some of the younger guys. So I've got such a broad picture, and back to my point of, you know, when you are the guy in that moment, in that moment, which they call the hype bubble.
Hype. I've never heard that term. Hype bubble.
It's actually a term. It's actually a phenomenon. It's in the music industry. It's adopted in the States.
Okay.
It's coined in the States. That the hype bubble. When you are on a trajectory, you know, you break in. You have that big break. You've got this hits after hits or whatever. Yeah, you're the guy. You booked like left, right, and center. Booked and busy.
Booked and busy.
Left, right, and center. You know, every brand wants a piece of you. Everyone wants a piece of you. Anything you touch, just, you know.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it's very easy to lose yourself and to be arrogant. Yeah, one. And to not really value the role that you need to play in imparting to the next person or the next generation. I mean, I tried in whatever way I could when I was in that position, but I always had the desire to do more. And
sometimes that can kill you also.
It can, and I want to get to that actually. Like, I do want to get to that part, but ndifuna uqala kwi part where you mentioned that when you were up and coming, and I'm just curious what that looked like for you looking in now, and now thinking back, I'm just curious, what did that look like up and coming for you?
It was a different time altogether.
I'm just wondering. Yeah, exactly, because it was a different time.
Evolved so quickly now, like it's crazy. Literally, up and coming meant that.
Well, what did it mean?
If you want to be a DJ, you need to have records. Number one, you need to collect records. So you have to save money. So you're a student. You have to save money. You collect the music. you need to have somewhere you're gonna play this music. You're not even thinking if you can own your own equipment. Your first thought is, where can I be able to go to practice and learn? Because I knew the theory of it, because I'm an intellect.
Yes.
So I knew the theory of it and the science of it before I even touched anything. I knew, oh, this is what needs to happen. Oh, I wanted to do it, okay. And then I used to do it on software, on the computer, Atomics, virtual DJ. So by the time I touched anything physical, I had that perspective. So I was determined. I started DJing in matric, you could say.
That was a hot time for a lot of people to start DJing matric.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I started in
matric.
matric, and it was unheard of. This is in 2002. It's unheard of, and we used to take the computer, take the whole tower, and your screen. We were set up like sound paya, atomics, yabona. Then when I got to varsity, was when in TUT was when okay, and that's when I really got into my journey of being an up and coming. I was on campus, and fortunately it was the time where the digital was starting to come in. So as much as I had to collect the records, I was one of the first guys who were also trying to adopt the digital side of it. And then sometimes there would be CDJs, we put CDs. There was no USBs yet. There was no CDJs that could take USBs or anything. So it was just navigating that space, refining the craft, getting through those barriers. But now I know I've got my vinyls, like my DJ, because that was like one of the
big thing. Yes, it's 90% of your
music.
Yeah,
you have records.
music.
And can you play? Yeah. So I went through that journey, and then I was already producing. I started producing in standard 6 in grade 8 in 1999. 1999.
Oh, hiki bakbale ne? Awunqena ukukhulula nge
No, it's not
nazi age ewe ne lakushaye ubani ina nathi age balani
umuntu ongathi ufana nawe.
Hey, yabona isensitive lento lena, because asifuna ukukhula, akomntu ufuna ukuguga. Akomntu ufuna ukuguga, but it took me the longest time to embrace my age and my experience that comes with it. And I'm ready. I'm more than ready for Grootman level.
Now discovering what that looks like.
And that's what I enjoy, by the way, about also how you outlined what you just outlined, because it is a different story deciding to be a musician, first of all, going into it as an up and coming, hitting that spot, like you said, that peak. But I always have a problem with up and coming, because it assumes that you want to pop. Do you get me? So and I'm just like, everybody, what if I don't want to pop? I don't
like
exactly.
that.
I just want to play music. What if that's it? I just want to play music, and that's just it. So I'm always wondering, are we accommodating
to that?
Are we
I think
accommodating?
there's always been a space for different types of DJs. Like I think the conversation of resident DJs came up recently. Yeah. And what a major role they play. You know, they've got their place. They've got, without resident DJ, who's gonna keep everything going before the headliner comes.
Exactly.
You know, and the resident DJ is not necessarily someone who's looking to pop. That's their position. And they're content with that. And most of the time, they're not even producers most of the time. Because also, there's then the fine line of, okay, if you're a DJ, you're a producer, so which means that you're an artist. So there's a difference between artist and DJ. Yeah, and an artist will always have the desire to pop.
Is that I'm struggling with?
I believe.
With those. I'm struggling with everything you're saying. I'm struggling with everything. I'm struggling with it because we talk about this all the time, Yokba. I want to be an artist, but I don't want to pop. Does that disqualify my artistry? Because being an artist is about you're being a creative. You're just being a creative.
I like what you said.
You're being
about
a
the hype
creative.
bubble. It's shifted. I struggle with that concept. If you were to ask me that now, I struggle with answering because it's shifted. Like there's a lot more now that's involved. There's social media, there's dance moves, there's this, there's that. If it was during that time, that's literally the answer. You know?
Buza Mobi ngoko about that. About first, let me say, let's compare times. Let's do that. Let's compare times, and we're gonna get to everything. Let's compare today.
Yeah.
If I was what's trending right now in performing? What's trending? Let's say dancing, I guess. You like to go there. Dancing and all of it is trending today. Let's give it 20, 15 years ago. How would that have been perceived as a DJ?
It was actually taboo.
Yeah.
It was
You see, that's
was
why
taboo.
you were the only one who was dancing.
Relax. It was taboo. Relax.
it was taboo, but then once I learned DJ,
DJ yo 10
I'm telling you, I remember this particular part. YFM days. One of the big YFM DJs, he just teased me. I was playing at some private party I got. But you go when the decks are not set in a focal arrangement where everyone can see and engage with what we're doing. So like, it feels like you're playing background music, people.
Okay.
So then I had this thing of money uses
I can see. Yeah,
trying to get everyone to
engage.
pay attention to me.
Yeah,
This guy after me comes laughing. Wanting the attention, like, no, relax, boy, relax. So, see, that was in those days. Whereas today, that would be normal.
it's expected. It's expected of you. So it's quite interesting to look at, actually, and to reflect on the days, to reflect on. Kumbula, by the way, the situation of back in the day versus now. In terms of just how things were run. Someone once said, guys, I miss being gatekeeping.
Everything. I remember everything. Yeah, gatekeeping was real. It was real.
As in I miss it. As in difuna ku gatekeep today.
I do miss it.
Yeah, but actually, because now, if anyone, thinks they can just do it overnight now.
And they don't want you to say that, by the way. People don't want people to say that, but we're not scared to say things like that.
No. It's a world where, it's not even about the craft anymore.
Sure.
It's about what can go viral, what can get you relevant, what can get you followers, what can make you popular. The craft is watered down. Yeah, I mean, it's a different time altogether, and for real back then. But actually, it brings an interesting part of my journey.
Yes.
Because back then, you could not make it unless someone puts you on.
Yeah.
So the mission was to convince someone that you
put you on.
To put you on.
Yep.
Hence why I'd go around with demos. I'd go to gigs.
All the time.
I would flippin' park by the parking lot. Sit by the. What do you mean park? Because I'm a now. The guys a while parking lot, and you wait for the moment where you're gonna see a Glenn Lewis walking out his car or Fresh, or then you get your moment. Hey, good man. I'm such and such. Here's my whatever. You know? And I was one of the few who was giving him, this is my own production. Because obviously it was still DJing. People used to cover mixtapes. I'm a DJ.
Yes.
Please put me on. But I was already on the on production. So here's my songs. And a lot of these guys weren't producers even themselves.
Ebona qala. Bona
But you needed them to put you on.
But you wanted them to put you on.
You needed them to put you on. And there's almost no door I didn't knock on at the time. No one wanted to put me on. So I was like, I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah.
And literally, I don't owe my success to anyone. I eventually made it
Today.
on my own.
That's it.
Well, did you ever ask yourself, Uba, why? Why are they not? Did you ever ask yourself that? Why bengandifaki?
Yeah, all the
Back
time.
then.
All the time. All
Did
the
you
time.
have an answer? Can you
All the
let it
time.
go?
All the time. I found my answers.
Eventually.
I found my answers. I was ahead of my time.
Kuthi abantu competition bayoyika enye into.
Exactly. So when you're on top of your game, when you're ahead of your time, when you're confident, it rubs some people the wrong way. It rubs people. They get intimidated or jealous, or they tell arrogant, or tell, who do you think you are? You know, you know, like, because I come from a academic, formal, you know, schooling, business, Akaya, we are business people. So at that time, I would already come with a finished product. Nancy Master, artwork, credit, yonke into, nangicela distribution, marketing.
100%.
Sorry, Talubus, Akaya Gupi. For someone who doesn't know.
So I'm from Monty, East London, in the Eastern Cape. Yeah.
We were talking about that, Uti, and I was that we talk about this thing of professionalism and how it enables you to package yourself. So Nyan was a packager.
So I was ahead of my time. So imagine now approaching someone who is big.
Yeah, and I kind
but
of
they can't even do that do that what you've done. Obviously they're not gonna put you on. They could already see by my problem and
and it's a real thing what he's saying. It's a real thing.
No, I think it's a real thing. I didn't know, because I'm oblivious until recently, that I was told that Ebantuba will look at you as competition and they won't let you into certain spaces. I did not know, guys.
Think of it that
Naive.
way, and that's a confirmation of how dope you are. You should not take that negatively. Take that as a and obviously you may come across umdunyan that's genuine, that will give you good feedback or whatever. But if you keep getting more and more people abangafuni ufaka, it's a sign of how dope you are.
Quick question from my side. We speak a lot on this podcast about
I knew where you're gonna go with that.
Before I'm gonna get.
I knew where you're gonna go with that. I know. I was gonna go there. I was gonna go there too.
But before I get to the business question, we talk a lot on this podcast about the how, right? What is informing your ability to package yourself at such an early age?
I was gonna go there too. Because when you started talking about the family and the business part, I was like, okay, it's going there.
I think then it needs you to needs me to tell you more about myself.
Period. Please.
I grew up in East London, Eastern Cape. Wakwantuli, uNhlangamandla uTolo Mchenge.
Hayi, njani kaloku? Nhlangamandla uZulu Mchenge. I didn't know that about you.
You're sitting here with like family members.
No,
That's how we're getting rejected. See, I rejected. Yes, man.
We're too much. We're too much.
We're too much.
We're too much. We're
too much.
Strong kakhulu.
It's the same curse.
We get.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, you were saying.
So. Yeah, guys. So I was fortunate to attend one of the best schools, from grade A, grade 1, sub A, right through to matric. So I think that was my first foundation of, having a solid education, even at primary and high school level. And this is now the late 90s, early 2000s. So computers in the country, I think, started coming in the mid 90s. But I remember that when I got my first computer in 1998, there weren't even computers at school, at the school. So I think that gave me advantage.
Okay.
My mother was very generous to give me a computer at that age, because at their work they were now bringing in computers. Was the new buzzword.
Yeah.
On a floppy disk.
Floppy. But that's where I started self-teaching myself how to produce, understanding software, understanding computer. And then in high school, I did my first IT course. It was actually A+. If you remember A+. And I did A+ in grade 10. So you can imagine.
No, I also did it somewhere in primary. We had a but obviously I'm a bit
age.
younger than you guys.
Nifike kuphi computer thina i-computer zifike sipha
Benihleli ngokuthiwa nathi computer yes.
So I was so blessed in that I somehow through my mother I've got this thing, and that changed my life. Like that one piece of equipment and me being in that school, me coming from the home that I come from.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest shaping of me being an entrepreneur, me being a software developer by profession. I'm a software developer by profession. I'm an IT technician, software network engineer by profession. I'm a sound engineer by profession. Yeah, so yeah, from that high school journey and going into tertiary, that's what enabled me to that how I understand the value chain of the business. Before I got into the business, I had to understand what is the value chain of the business. Where am I? What am I trying to do? What are my capabilities?
Yeah.
So I knew that I could go up as far as needing someone to take this product and distribute it, press it and distribute it for me and market it for me. And I understood how record companies work, I did all the research. This is before even I went to study sound engineering.
Yeah.
I studied the whole thing on my own because I already was switched on in that mindset. And with my upbringing and with the kind of school that I went to.
I love the word switched on, actually, because that's literally what it is. You switch on that part of your brain, of your life, of your lifestyle.
I feel like I'm listening to another version of myself. I just chose web, not software.
Konje, yeah, you are a web developer. Yeah.
But in the same light, it's like you come from a hub mentality. Like a hub produces the whole infrastructure, so...
Yeah, and obviously when you're attending these things at a tertiary level, there's all these other modules. There's all these other business management, project management, which all then shape you. So, like, I was not just another guy trying to make it in the industry. At that time. So you can imagine how overbearing it may be. Like, I don't blame the people who didn't put me on at all, because in hindsight, I see, but I was ahead of my time. Yeah.
Do you attribute some of let me say some of those skills? Do you attribute some of how you talk and do business right now to some of those skills?
Yes, definitely.
Because we're always talking about, for instance, Uti, get educated. Like because we say there's a sense of lack of professionalism in the industry, and that's because certain people lack exposure in certain spaces. So would you say that those two do link vele for you? Have you
Yes.
found that they link?
Yes, definitely, man. And you know, it's so crazy how the world has rapidly shifted, because you in that time, the information was not as freely available.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Now we're in a time where the information is freely available to everyone. But because it's freely available, now people are not pursuing it.
They're not
It's
pursuing
valued.
it, yeah.
People are not whereas back then, it was not as freely available. Those that did were ngathi uyasitshela uyaziphakamisa uyasipita la. Yeah.
Ufuna ntoni kule into?
Yeah,
It's so how, like, throughout your whole life being plagued by such a thing, and I know Sai, I like what you said earlier to you, like you were quite oblivious to it, but you now understand it. How does it feel carrying that throughout your whole life till today? Like, I'm sure there's some places where there's still resistance that you experience, like living with it till today. How?
Hey man, I'm one that believes everything happens for me, not to me.
Oh, cool.
So everything that happens, good and bad, it's part of God's greater plan. So obviously some things are more painful than others, and but I'm one not to quickly jump to conclusion about no, fuck, it's the end of the world. I think it will be the end when it's the end. And I think even then, after then, you get revealed actually if what was good and bad throughout your life. You only ultimately know after. You'll never fully know. But now you live long enough to keep seeing, but no man, hey, that happened then, that time. Actually, because everything that happens today, something in the past prepared you for that moment, or something happened in the past, whether it happened or didn't happen, but it's what shaped. It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have that hindsight and see, but oh man, I'm so glad I didn't get that opportunity. I'm so glad I didn't get that because now I got this, and I went this direction. You only see it in hindsight.
That's interesting, actually. Oh, I'm so glad I didn't get that. Oh, wow, okay. I think it's rare that people actually
and
get
that's
that.
exactly in that situation. That's exactly what happened. Because then
You wouldn't have pushed yourself.
I wouldn't have pushed. I wouldn't have gotten in that mindset. I wouldn't have gotten and pushed myself. And I learned so much on that journey.
Yeah.
And gained so much respect and confidence. And I made it.
And you made it.
And guess what?
Yeah.
Almost all of those people came back saying to me, let's work.
How poetic.
Yeah, and even that, getting that, you're not going to pay paid for that or anything, but it's something that stays with your heart. You set out on a goal and you achieved it.
Yeah.
And even the people that didn't believe in you shifted their mind, and now they believe it. Yeah.
I can believe that, actually. I think that's, for me personally, that's one of the, I have a similar mindset. I'm like, guys, doing azuyenza is to let someone else be in charge of my destiny or be in charge of something that I want. I'm going to try my best to at least control or do what I can control or work within whatever I can control to get what I want. At least, because now can't figure out like someone, like there were opportunities for radio that develop, but I'd never officially got into radio in Johannesburg, even with DJing as well. I didn't get into it, but I was like, I'm not gonna sit and let that happen. So eventually I decided to start this podcast, but anyway, we're growing it as time goes by. But I enjoy Kau City that you took it upon yourself and you did it, and you've got no one else. I actually enjoy that because I remember there was I think and I hope I'm not mistaken. Second while, did you second EP launch or something wayenza numbers? And wayenza ngokwakho,
Yes,
as I
that
believe
was
it,
my
because
breakthrough album.
yeah,
The album launch.
wayenza ngokwakho.
Literally done, yeah.
And I was watching, I'm like, this guy is doing this thing, and clearly he's doing it ngokwakhe. And and I think I was in, I don't remember the year. What year was it? Do you remember?
It was 2013.
Because I was in varsity. I remember that I was in varsity. I think it was my second year in varsity in Dandise Monty, and then someone was like, let's go to this. That can't pick up her. I was like, this thing is so brilliant, such a big party, such a huge party, and clearly whoever's behind it uyazenzela, because you can see how they, for instance, the discs were available, they were on a display.
Display, merchandise, banners.
I had so much fun, by the way.
Corner cities, one more is corner. Literally,
like you pushed it. I think Danama no Soli, now that I think about it. Also Loms, actually. I think Danama Naya, but I think we must have missed you at the time. So I was watching it. I'm like, now that I think about it, Mobi vele ngumntu ozenzelayo, and I enjoyed that, because like this thing of maybe Shlamina I do suffer with it, of thinking that someone holds the keys sometimes. Sometimes you think, someone holds the keys to where you want to be. And Shlambi, I want to debunk that. I want us to somehow debunk that. And you're the perfect person to
You have just asked
Chin.
I didn't even know. You're
That's
the
what I don't
perfect.
like about this.
Put me on.
You find out later.
So let's talk about then some of the decisions that you made to get to the point that you can say that you are in right now, by the way. I'm wondering, Wuti, from what kind of movements did you see yourself doing? What kind of spaces did you see yourself, finding yourself? What kind of things did you, this is what I need to do to get to where I need to be?
Everything, so much has happened, man. So much happened during that time. You're making me think of those times now with the numbers launch, and I think it goes back to what I said earlier, because it wasn't like one decision. It was me being shaped to be the person that I needed to be in order to pursue this thing with the energy that I did up until I broke through. It's a series of events. But I think one major turning point, one major decision, of which, I have to give all credit to my father. Because I went down, there was a period where, hey, I've done all the studying I can do. But they've given you the opportunity to push this thing, but it's not happening. And then I went back home and I worked on the family business.
Okay.
But after about a year or so, my dad sits me down. He's like, no, I can see you still want to do this thing. Because I would leave the office, go to the studio, come back home, leave the office, studio, every day. See, so how dedicated, because before he had never seen it, because it was far. I was in Joburg, in Pretoria, or whatever. Now he was seeing it firsthand. Sometimes I would even sleep at the studio. And then it's like, no, man, I can see you still want this thing. Why don't you give it one last shot? This is in 2012. It's like, why don't you give it one last shot? And then I'm like, nah. No, it's okay. Because I was also hurt. Because I've gone through all of that.
Uzamile.
It all feels like a gift and a curse kind of thing. And then he's like, no, go think about it. Sat back down a week later, and I'm like, no. He's like, no, don't stay here because of convenience or because of money or whatever.
Hey. Your dad is a real dad. Your dad is a
Yeah,
real
well,
dad.
because he can see now.
He's daddy.
I'm only staying there because of the security.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, if it doesn't work out, you can come back.
Yeah.
And he gave me his full blessing, and then that was the turning point where I had everything to prove
Sure.
to myself, to God, to my parents, for my parents' blessings. And I had a period where I'm still in East London, but it's a Gauteng.
You're
I
back.
paid 2 months.
Yeah.
Kweli pass.
Yo, like
Pass overnight, I know.
13 to 14 hours.
Yeah, 13 hours. Patton Park on the house.
Patton
I did that trip. You know what? Throughout that year, I did that trip.
They said it was his passing.
Over too many times. I'll come and crash on a friend's couch, crash at my girlfriend's place, who later became my wife.
Consistency.
You know, and that was the turning point, that decision for me to give it one last shot and give it your all. And I did, and I made it. Yeah.
I think Jonga sobe singabi I think passion and spiritual this thing most
Yeah,
is spiritual and passion is spiritual, and I think Rick Rubin uyawathini nakanene about creativity, something along the lines of creative. You need to be spiritual to be creative as well. There's a sort of link somewhere there, but we can feel, I guess, the passion. That's the point, that we can feel the passion, and that's why I needed you on my podcast, because I think you're one of the people that can outline these things with genuineness. Is this because I was thinking genuineness, but it sounded like a fake word in my mind. Is it genuineness? Yeah. Or let's say authenticity. So let's say authenticity. I think you are the one person who can, speak about some of the, the taboo things that we don't talk about in the industry with authenticity. The money things, the non-money things, the things that break our hearts, the things that don't break our hearts. In the music. And you sound like, Nyan, you went through a point where your heart got broken, but you stood up, you got up, and then you made it. What would you attribute, by the way, as your breakthrough song?
Okay, before I answer that,
Yeah.
we had the conversation or the point of someone must put you on.
Yes.
And as much as no one put me on in the music industry
space,
but I still had needed someone to believe in me.
Yeah.
And not just put their money where their belief is.
Yeah.
So I must give credit to my best friend,
Yeah.
Doromega. He's now a DJ as well. He's the one person who believed in my dreams so much that when I told him, bro, everyone is saying no, everyone doesn't want to put me on. He was like, do it. And he's like, Ian, how much do you need? Okay, Ian, run with it. And I ran with it.
Yeah. Jeswell had something similar to say as well.
And I ran with it. So I don't want to miss that point to go to think that you're an island or you can Zenzel. Obviously we attribute it all to God.
Yes, obviously.
Because he was sent by God and was like, no, you don't need to be put on in this fashion. You need to be put on in this
way. Okay.
In this fashion.
Actually, when.
So we mustn't overlook also those people in our lives that have a role to play, and a role to touch us in our journeys. Just wanted to make that point. What is your question again? I was
gonna go somewhere with what would you attribute as your breakthrough song, since we've been talking about breakthrough?
Yes, I remember them because of that song as well. I think we have to say City Rains.
City Rains, ne? What was his input was?
So he's like my third, everything I do, I run past him. He's like my A&R. So I remember we recorded the City Rains. I had a beat. I had met MQ at like a session, open mic session of some sort. I'm like, yo, I'm doing some house music, man. Come through. This is the studio that my dad gave me, the building my dad gave me. So I just used to invite these artists there all the time. I'm like, yo, come through. I want us to do a song. Okay, I came through. We recorded the song. My friend Doro actually fetched him, brought him to the studio. And they so happened to have gone to the same school together. We record. I sharp. I stay with the project for a few weeks, piece together the vocal, but I'm not happy, man. I'm not happy with the beat. I'm like, something's missing. So I scratched the entire beat.
No way.
And started a new beat from scratch. And before I could even put the music, because to put the music, I called in a guy called Rogan and Jason, who played the keys and the guitar. I played the guitar. But even before I put any music, with just that vocal and the groove, I just done the groove. I called Dora same time. I'm like, we've got it. We've got it. We've got it. With just the groove. I'm like, we've got it. All I need to do is put music. But I can feel it with every fiber of my being. And he remembers this moment because he was in Zimbabwe at the moment. We laugh about the story all the time. And I played it from the phone. He remembers. He was stuck in the lift trying to get down to the bottom of the building in Zimbabwe. And he was like, yo, okay, I get where you're coming from. But that was the defining moment in us believing in City Rain, because we had dropped Love Color Spin.
Yes.
It was already out. We were already pushing that. It was like brewing under. It was big in the Eastern Cape, but it wasn't hitting national. But we were like, yeah, this is the one. This is the one. Wrapped it up, put it out, and within 3 months it started getting a lot of love. And by 6-7 months it was the biggest song in the country.
It was the biggest. So no, it was not. No, I kid. It was the
7
biggest song.
Not late, I'm telling you.
That's 6 days.
It's a hit. Next 6 days, where's that song? We're looking for it everywhere. I love the process though that you went through, you know. But Mob,
I was actually gonna say for us, because we were in the Eastern Cape at that time. No, that song ran.
that song, by the time it reached Bloom, it was, hey, they said, hey, what's this? Eastern Cape. Man, what's this? We literally thought you were like, you know.
And I remember at the time, I can't remember what year it was. When I met Mobi for the first time, must have been 2015 or so, and you were talking about how hard it is to be national from the Eastern Cape versus being in Joburg. And I can't remember but you were talking about that duality of I want to be in the Eastern Cape, but for me to have a national voice, I need to be. You know, I need to be in Joburg. So I'm curious, just as a follow-up from all those years ago, where you ended up, you know, settling there. And then my second one is, now I'm here for the business question, right? You're a DJ and you're an artist, right? And you've got the experience of decades. Where's the talk to us about what is the money like for DJ versus artist 20 years ago, DJ versus artist today?
I love this question because I like hearing about money. But I love it because it's a genuine comparison, actually.
Let me start with that one. It's a different time, man. It's different. It's difficult to compare. It's really difficult to compare. I'll give you one example. Back then, we were dealing with physical, you know, CDs. You knew exactly where your sales are coming from when it comes to your music. You knew if I'm getting this percentage. If I sell 10,000 units, this is how much I'm getting. And it looked just more tangible. And because you could also sell those CDs to yourself, you could sell to your family, to your friends, to whatever. You could make money just in your community. Whereas with the streams, you know, now you're getting a fraction and it needs to accumulate so much. But then again, there's pros and cons, because now with the digital, now you're reaching the entire world, not as far as your CD can travel. But with that said, I think artists today, they have it really good. An artist can be successful and make a good income in a shorter space of time and reach a wider audience in a shorter space of time. I'll give you another example, crossing the borders. Like I'm saying, your record now touches people in different parts of the world. You're able to get there way sooner. Whereas in our times, going overseas was not just a walk in the park. You know, you needed to really have your stuff travel. And I was fortunate. I was on the end of the vinyl era. My first record I released was a vinyl. And then I was fortunate to be also on the end of the CD era. I remember we even had a huge debate at my last album at Sony, whether we were going to press physical or not. And this is not so long ago. This is like in 2017, 18, where we had to really have a huge debate, because that's when the digital migration was really happening now. The streaming platforms were coming up. And I remember I was so disappointed when we decided, no, there's no physical. But then again, with that coming in, my music was already traveling now to different countries. And I remember it was such a huge thing for me to go to the UK, to go to be booked in London and Manchester. It was huge. Whereas nowadays, these kids, it happens overnight.
It's happening overnight.
So it's pros and cons to the whole thing. I can't. You can't say. You'd need to compare case by case. There's a lot of other factors in it as well.
So let me narrow something quickly. Let me narrow it down. Do you feel like it's when it comes to making money through sales, and sales now we're talking about the sales of today, which is distribution sales, versus making money through selling copies, which is a better stance?
Difficult to say.
That one is
Difficult to say, because
I
you
thought
can
it was an
blow, you
easy
can have
answer.
a smash hit here now that hits every corner of the world. Then you look at streams differently. Whereas also, you can go back and say, remember the time when you could sell 40,000 copies and make a few million? Just like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even the systems involved have, they've says it different, way different.
The medium of consumption, even for the listener now, is different.
Jonga, I thought you'd choose older days, because it's not Spotify.
Spotify. Let's not talk about it.
And the understand it's not Spotify.
You can't, as much as we are attached to that era and how things worked back then. You can't be attached too much. You have to move with the ages. You have to move and look at what are the pros and cons. Like I'm saying now with the streaming, if you get hit right, I mean, you can see good returns. And to hit the point across and how good the Amapiano era has it, they are seeing decent money in streams. And think of it this way, there's not even one Amapiano record on CD
I guess. But
The last
imagine,
one, or maybe.
but imagine if there were.
I'm a piano.
Oh, it wasn't on CD. It was just on a computer. Okay.
Which one?
House Africa when they released.
Oh, House
Amapiano.
Africa release
South
piano.
Africa.
Yeah, like and then that was the last release by House Africa. It was weird.
Oh, ngathi ngokubingela piano.
Ngokubingela, it's a underground. It's a piano.
Oh, that's the time. That's the time.
That's the time.
CD was so dying. Stores were shutting down. It was a play, bro. It was a scary place, but what's gonna happen now? Music, wrong, reliable. Before music, was the last to die.
Yeah, musical.
That's when we were like, fuck, it's over. When music closed. But about reliable, about look and listen, CNA, those were our clients.
Did just a quick one. Whilst we're talking about CDs into streaming, did that change in any way how you were producing music? Because streaming, at least in areas like hip hop, etc., you ended up having these short songs instead of a 4-minute song. I think an average song is now 2.5 minutes, and also people, making shorter projects, so that you can
Attention
cycle.
span.
Oh,
Attention span.
it's the death of me, low process, honestly.
Which one? Where you have to.
Nah. It never shifted me. I always kept to my form. In fact, I used to argue with the label at times, with Sony, where they'd advise, no, cut it here, make it short, or whatever. I would never keep my song. If I wanted to do a radio edit, I would cut a bit of the beginning and a bit of the end.
Guys,
I'm not compromising the arrangement,
exactly.
the whole arrangement of the song. And I won all the time, because at the end of the day, the radio will still play the song will still become big. Yeah.
I cannot, like these short songs, I cannot. Guys, and funny,
Yes,
I don't
it's
like
bad,
listening to
especially
these short
it's
songs.
better with house, but hip hop, it's bad.
Yeah, with hip hop, it's crazy.
I'm of a different perspective.
You want music shorter?
No, I experienced it. I was listening to an album. I forget whose album it was, right? This guy, what he does is all the songs, they hectic. Like, sitting by 10,000, right? Like 20 tracks, right? But the 20 tracks, like, Ibamandi, like, what that does in a sense of streaming from a business perspective, what happens? Don't kill yourself.
Keeps you hooked.
Kill me
It
now.
keeps you hooked because you're like, hey, is this
The next
EP
one,
over? No, man, let me listen again. Then you go purchase the fuller version on like a Bandcamp. That's where he'll release them. But I think just to attack Lento streaming, it does work.
I see some guys are doing it now, even with this house music, where to platforms like Apple and Spotify, they release a cut version. They don't even call it a what edit. It's just a short.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on Traxsource and
I'm
Beatport,
for that.
Yes, we release the longer cut.
Because Traxsource gonna pay you
full
real
one.
money, and you'll
It
And
does.
that's where the
Yeah.
DJs
Yes,
get.
that's what we buy our music.
And the argument is that's where that long play it belongs to the DJ, not really the average listener. It's
no,
not,
but the everyday
it doesn't
listener
really apply.
can get the music if that's what they want to do. They can get it. It's not like it's limited to
No, I
DJs.
think the argument is that the intro and the long version of it is not relevant to them.
To them.
They want the song to get to the meat and want to move on to the next
Even
song.
for DJs that dig, you remember you used to go to music. Okay, go to music. I'm not saying you. As per
I
se.
used to go,
Okay.
me
But
personally.
who figured out? You used to get there.
Yeah.
This is how I used to say, man, okay, 3 minutes. But next, it's
Fast forward.
So that's what
the
the
intro.
Spotify's are. So I think sometimes we misuse these platforms instead of just
Not misuse.
No, essentially in terms of the music that we cater for them. Like we just need to try and balance that out, I suppose.
I think it does make sense in a way, because remember there was a time where guys would put the full version and radio edit.
And the radio edit.
Yeah.
But
And an
now I think
extended.
now it's moved even from that they're just identifying. But on this platform, this is the type of listener. So must I fact no if this is the version.
And that makes sense.
Guys,
I think that
you
makes
heard it
sense.
first on this podcast. We're giving you game.
That makes sense. I asked you just to kind of tap on, since we're here now talking about the music culture and the music. I remember I asked you, what's your take on bootleg culture?
Oh yes.
Now,
But I think I missed the question. What was the question that
Oh,
was asked
I
before
thought we
before
were-
that one?
he had a two-part question.
Yes.
Did you?
Yeah, because I asked the question about, yes, it was having a national voice, Eastern Cape versus.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
The linking to from
to-
from Grahamstown, the met at Grahamstown. Yeah, I think at that time.
Memory yako sana iyasebenza. Iyasebenza.
Yeah, I think at that time I was experiencing that because that was like at my peak, and I tried to stay as long as possible in East London, and I was doing the back and forth. But I then came to a point of realizing that in order for me to be more impactful and to reach other places easier, because also you need to think of the geographical positioning and the routes, Gauteng, how it's positioned in itself, how many areas it has, how many venues it has, Mpumalanga, Northwest, Free State, KZN, Yonge. Yeah, but think of those things, because think about your gigging movements. If now, because we're already starting to even experience that, because now his situation is blowing up, getting calls.
Yep.
No, we want him to come to Polokwane. It's a 2-hour drive. And we're like, we in East London, we still need to take a 13-hour bus. Or a flight. How we can't afford a flight. We're not even charging like so much at the time. And you don't want to start even getting a conversation, because then you understood, other guys, they don't even have to have that conversation,
Yeah,
because they're in Joburg
they-
already. It's a 2-hour drive, sharp, let's do it. So definitely I made the best decision to come to move to Joburg, because the engine is here, man, everything is here. Even Cape Town, you can't even be in Cape Town if you think of another major city. The only guys I think who've gotten it right is Durban, because they've managed to create an ecosystem of their own, and you get artists that are based there, and I think it's also it's an easier route to Joburg and other places. So KZN have kind of that one.
I loved the distribution. Back in the days, it would come from Eastern Cape, but before it reaches Johannesburg, Johannesburg, the students, that went that lived in Monte, for example, or in those areas, they'd come with the CDs. Start, Saripa.
Yeah,
Don't judge me.
Flowed.
Siyaripa, siyodlala. Ezixazifika, by the time they get here from Makufe, siyachisa city rains. Don't tell us, what are you playing? Oh no, let me put you onto this. The crowd goes insane. When DJing was still a real thing. But that distribution is like, I like to liken it to drugs. Like it was like
flowed, it was limited.
Velite.
It's unlike now, where it's
Hey. And then it stays in Joburg now.
But I always, and this is the thing, by the way, because I'm like I always think about, even though Vele, it was nice, it made sense, but sometimes the practicality of things, we need to think about it sometimes. I enjoy also how you when you moved to Joburg, you thought about it practically, which by the way is something I never thought about it. I thought about it as a hub and not a practical thing. But hey, logistically, you can move from one place to another, to another, to another. I watch people even romanticize the past. I don't want you to romanticize the past, guys, because I'm all about moving forward. I don't want people to romanticize the past. And even here, it's nice to be nostalgic. It's always nice to be nostalgic. It's also very good to move on, because I don't want us to think that we are saying we have a problem with how distribution is done in this day and age. Do you get me? I have a little problem with how distribution is done in this day and age, but I don't want that to be, unless that's your overall message.
No, definitely not.
Oh.
Like I was saying, I mean, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons. But ultimately, it's for the better. The evolution is for the better because it's not only one facet. It's to the end user.
Yes.
What makes sense? What medium of how do people consume music now?
Yes.
You know?
Which is why I also asked you the bootleg culture question.
Yes.
It's exactly why, because bootleg culture, I don't want to put my words in your mouth, but some people today may have a problem with it, and there are various nuances to it, and because I'm like, I wanted to first get what your overall take is on bootleg culture, because back in the day, bootleg culture it's essentially a big part of dance music and house music in South Africa. For us in the world.
I mean,
but you have some people complaining about the music being bootlegged.
When would you
Today.
be happy?
I was gonna ask you. But that's what I wanted to get first. The overall, the bootleg culture. How do you feel? And if you think about bootleg with city raids, I'm sure about bootleg.
Piano version.
it has
Wow,
been.
bootleg.
It has been.
Yes, the show.
Many of my songs have been, but I can't sit here and say I've got an issue against it, because it was also part of my journey.
Yeah.
One of my first big breaks, I won a remix competition. But you see now, that was an official.
It's an official thing.
But before I got there, I had practiced. I was bootlegging Abo Asha, Abo John Legend, Abo Miriam Makeba, whatever. And it was part of my training, or my practicals, I would say. Because by the time I got to that competition, I smashed it and I won. And that led to me getting my first record deal. So I would just say, let's try and have better respects for people's works. Let's try and have the confidence. Don't just do a bootleg. You don't even attempt to try and get it cleared. You just hoy it. Yes, I understand it. It's something that's now being done so much. It's being normalized. And we play these remixes because you get them. We play them. We play them. They're nice for the DJ. But I wish there was also a better way for artists to understand what they need to do to get the clearance, and to pursue it, and not just assume and then just do as you please, because you unfortunately might find yourself that you messed with the wrong person, and next thing you're
I guess to this day and age you should know better, right? I mean, back then it was like, this thing came and you just wanted to express probably in your own way, in your own words. It inspired you. And to this day and age, we know better, right? Like, we know better than to just decide you want to.
By the way, I never put out any of those, any of that. And I've never put out any.
Those are for DJs.
And any remix I do nowadays, it's part of a plan. It's either I've been commissioned or I've approached the artist. It's part of a plan. Obviously, also as an established artist, you can't put yourself in that risk.
You can't,
Hence why you find it being done by a lot of up and comings. You hardly find an established artist doing an illegal remix.
Illegal remix,
You're just asking for trouble.
What do you think about the Amapiano remixes and by the way, these remixes, some of them they're not far from the original. Do you have an opinion on that?
Because firstly, we need to affirm that Amapiano is the birth child of house music.
Yes.
So it went as far as literally us seeing the DNA or an extraction of the DNA, where they would take melodies, they would take sample sounds, and so forth. I think it was part of the establishment of the genre, and I don't have any gripe with that, because now, and initially I did, but now I'm seeing the genre evolving and growing from that into establishing its own identity without having to rely on the sampling.
Yeah.
So
ingaphelelwa njengekwaito.
yes.
Oh, ibuhlungu ke loo nto,
No,
son.
that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen because it's grown, it's just evolved, and also kwaito was in a different time. The world didn't have a chance to experience the kwaito. Who knows what would have happened? Now the only difference is the whole world got to experience amapiano, and at a time where the whole world was paying attention in COVID.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's a phenomenon, and the story of amapiano is going to be a case study for years to come in the entire music business of the world.
Yep.
There's never been a genre that has grown
Like
in such a short space of
like
time.
this, rapidly, like this. Ingathi,
So,
TP.
I heard Mama Him ukuthi you also had a record label at some point. Signed artists.
Yeah. At my peak, going back to the point of giving back, trying to impart on other artists and the next generation. So my plan was to diversify and build a record label. Why?
I asked
Lay
myself
record
why
label.
I did that. Because I feel like I gave so much more.
That's the problem. You and it goes back to that Novana understanding where people come from when they didn't want to help you or when they couldn't help you. When now you're in that position now. So I took it on, only to find later, but actually I'm giving myself a piece of myself away, and I'm watering down the attention that my brand still
that's
needs.
what happens naturally.
Yeah, well, and also you get your A&R ear gets blurred as well.
Yeah.
Because now you're believing in people, you believing, you having hope and faith in someone's potential. Yeah, well, for different reasons. Maybe you like the person, maybe Benazana, maybe
Tenacity.
whereas if you look at the record companies, the big record companies in the world,
no emotion.
They sign their A&R is based on a person who's got trajectory and momentum that they've built on their own, not only the sound. So it's a sound. Whereas when you're signing your cousin or your
and you have to be a coach.
Shiny guys,
all of that.
So your heart was
at once,
in it,
but
kakulu.
you still need that yourself. So it drained every last bit of me. That thing. It drained every last bit of me. It affected me. It affected me in many ways. But it was a learning curve.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I think it sounds contrary to what some people may believe is the next growth step for a musician.
And that's the thing. It was always been sold as the next step of diversification of an artist. If you look at all case studies from the States,
yes,
because they birthed the record industry. We look at them. If you look all the way for generations down, it was always the guy who made it, who then put on his crew and established that stable or whatever. It's all look at even today. Your biggest moguls, your Jay-Z's, your Diddy's.
But what sucks is that they end up being villains.
Yeah, what sucks is that you end
At
up
least
being
you
a
got away
villain.
from that.
Now it's what sucks. That's what sucks.
There's a kid
man.
somewhere that's sitting.
see-
I'm looking short.
Yeah,
You become a villain.
but that's also that. Look at that on its own. Kuti yaibona kuti it's just a standard narrative. It's a standard narrative because even in the States, there are those cases where, no. Always, it will always be a record label abuses or whatever. The artist is always the victim.
Yeah,
That is the narrative that we cannot fight. Hence why there's this whole thing. Oh, let's go independence.
Go. I
Yeah,
figure
but-
package. It's the funniest thing ever.
Everyone inside this whole independent culture, which is great, especially in this day and age.
yeah, I can work today.
It can work, but there's always just been this narrative, Ndobana. Record labels will always screw artists. Yeah, one.
It's a would it be so popular if it wasn't a reality though?
Yabona le nto eka reality yiyo ethethileyo ne-problem.
Okay, I think we need to, there's a distinction that needs to be made from screwing on and doing business. Screwing someone over and doing business then. Because some might say, look, they're just doing business. And you're just not happy with how they do business. Some might, but some actually really do screw artists over. Let's just keep it a stack.
No, the problem goes back to there's no standards. Our industry has no standards.
Yeah.
There's no structures.
There's no
unity.
structures. There's
So
no
baseline.
regulations.
There's no regulations. There's no. So how can you say you got? It's really twofold. Because now I'm trying to put on the hat of an artist and the hat of an executive.
Yeah.
Of which I've had both experiences.
Yes.
So how can you say that you are being screwed? I'm talking from a record label perspective. How can you say that you're being screwed when you signed this and you agreed to these terms?
That's it.
And we went on with business, but now you are being screwed. Then put on the hat of an artist. No, I was desperate. I was uninformed.
Exactly.
Uninformed, or but somehow the victim always thinks that they got the bad end of the stick. The artist always comes out thinking that they got the bad end of the stick, but it's because there's no standard. If there was a regulation that says an artist is supposed to get dun, then we'd understand. But now, how are you going to blame even that record company if there's no baseline, there's no measurement, which means they can thumbsuck any deal that they want?
Uvege, just to add on to what he's saying, right? Some record labels, distributors are international, right? The law, when you release music, the law in South Africa for publishing is like 50-50. That's what Samro signed on.
Yes,
but when the time you signed away your rights to an international record label, right? So that international record label can give you 20 because that's the law at Sweden or wherever that is. So now you can't use structures from here depending on the type of deal. So the publishing also belongs to that side.
So let me ask this then. Let's use a case study, a pub. Can we use an example?
Yeah.
Let's talk about an example. Let's say and I want to say, since out of the risk of trying to expose anyone's business or secrets, let's use a public one. Like let's think of what public, like a public example where an artist hasn't been happy that you can think of, where you feel like what, and you were not in the do you get me? You were not the one who received the short end of the stick here. You're just complaining because you didn't do A, B, C, D, F, G. Can you think of a public one, like a public one, not a personal one? Because because there's been a lot of public scandals where someone is unhappy with how their record label does things. Makadzi is one of them. Yeah. Who else? The Daliwonga also. Yeah, Daliwonga as well. Who else? What other public ones have been there?
I was about to say that I think I'll give an international example, and then I will just throw a comment. I think sometimes the context that we use, I like what Mobi is saying, that there's no standard sometimes for us to judge something. But the way that I try to look at it, I spend my days analyzing technology companies. And venture capital is one of the areas that is funding a lot of technology. When you look at venture capital and also private equity, that is in essence what's happening with record labels, right? There's a difference between the type of business you think someone is in versus the type of business that they're
actually in. That's true.
I always use the example of a nightclub. A nightclub is not a place, is not in the entertainment business. A nightclub is in the liquor business. They're just using the entertainment to get you into their bottle store.
To keep you
Right.
entertained.
To keep you there, because their real competition is Pick and Pay, liquor, checkers, etc.
Yep.
A person can go anywhere to drink.
Yep.
I'm just using my entertainment to get you to come and drink here. So in the same way, record labels, as far as I'm concerned, they're financial institutions.
Yes, they are.
You need to think of a record label like a bank, not as an entertainment entity. Especially from a 360 point of view, if you're signing a 360, right, you are being given a loan, right?
That's
And that loan has to be paid back. And like many other loan agreements, the creditors eat first, not you, right?
Interesting.
Which is why we always talk about recouping and all of that stuff. The record label is basically invest. You are the business, like what Mobi said at the beginning. You are the business. You're literally coming and pitching yourself. Hi, I am a business. My talent is my product, right? Will you give me money to fund marketing, studio time, distribution, etc., and then make your money, right? It's what you call it. It's venture capital, it's private equity. It's a loan. It's a business loan.
That's it.
And I think sometimes art. I don't want to, disparage the artists, but I don't think the artists understand
Yeah.
that part. You almost get into like passion discussions
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, I thought you just believed in me.
Yeah.
Right? I thought that you
Make it
were
sound
here
ridiculous when you
to-
put it
you're
like that,
here
by the way.
to help me out, right? And it's like, no, like a bank, right? When you go as a farmer to a bank, because farmers use banks all the time, when a farmer has a crop, every year they go to the bank, they need to inputs, tractors, seed, fertilizer, etc. They go to the bank, they get funded, and then at the end of the year, the harvest, crop goes to the market, they make their money back, they pay back the bank. And that's the same cycle with the record labels. They fund you, you record the song, they promote the song, it goes into the market, you go on a promo tour, and then the record label
the
makes its
creditor
money
makes
back
the money
so
back.
that they can plow that money. Because that money, that's the other thing, like a bank, the money comes back in principle, but it also has to come back with interest, right? And if you're not fully gauging and understanding those things, then, so the example I was going to give is Mason Diddy, because it's an international example. If I remember correctly, Diddy put $20,000 into Mace, and a couple of years later, there's a lot of controversy around Diddy and the publishing rights and all of that stuff. And Diddy could probably do better, right? A lot of people saw it as a red flag in 23 when he started giving people the publishing back.
Yeah, that's really news.
That's it. And then a few months
But
later, things started
Sinjin.
popping off, and it was like, oh, this is why you were, you were doing this thing. But unfortunately, in a capitalist economy, it is the owner of the capital to whom you have to give the fruits first, and to whom the risk lies, right?
That's it.
It
I
makes
remember just the last one, and this is completely different, but I think it illustrates what I mean. I stand corrected on this, but when Christopher Columbus is going to quote unquote discover America, all of those expeditions that used to be done, it was the same models, right? These guys would be like, I am a sailor, I'm an explorer. But you'd have to go to royal families or the aristocracy to get funding, And in many of those, because it's like I'm going on a journey of exploration, I think there's riches on the other side of the water. Whether it's salt, spices, gold, whatever it is, we think we can find treasure on the other side of the world. We'll find the treasure and we'll bring it back here. But I need funding for my trip. And I think like I said, I stand to be corrected. I think in the Christopher Columbus case, that whole going to America expedition, I believe it was a 70-30 split. He only owned 30% of, he got onto the water, ships,
Risk.
all of this stuff, the risk, but it's the owners of the capital. Because without the capital, right, your ship is going nowhere. So it was a 70-30 split, 30% for him, 70% for the people with the capital. And that's unfortunately the economy we exist in. Yes, you've got the talent, but without the capital of the record label, your talent is not going to be exposed to the world. Of course, now things are more democratized, like what Mobi was talking about. The barriers of entry have now come down so much more. But I really do think artists should look at record labels like banks and not believers in their talent. Yeah, that's just me.
Comments?
We bambile.
Hayo.
In perpetuity ke ngoku.
Waqabile.
In perpetuity.
Buza umkhazi.
Ngicela ubuze.
Buza umkhazi.
I'm just wondering, is it a reasonable bank stipulation? Should we take that as a reasonable bank institution stipulation? In perpetuity?
Is it in perpetuity across the board for certain things?
For all things.
Oh, what do you mean?
Isn't
In
it?
this context, in the context of your contract in a record label, or in a setting concerning your music, or in perpetuity.
No, perpetuity means forever, but it's not always applied. But it means forever. Whatever agreement that you so you could find that in your contract, maybe for example the 360 contract, after 6 years, 3 years, 3 albums, whatever. But after 6 years, we'll give you back your rights if you've paid back the money, but maybe they say we'll give back your publishing, but we'll keep your masters in perpetuity, or something like that, or keep your publishing.
Yes,
that is their terms. It's up to you whether you agreeing or not.
And there's nothing wrong with
that part is where I just.
There's nothing.
That is the terms. It's up to you whether you're agreeing, whether you are negotiating, whether you have leverage to negotiate, or you are not taking it. Or you're taking it. So that's why people can't say that they've been screwed, because if you made an agreement, that's the agreement in the end.
So are we saying that the artists that are complaining about their agreements online, it's because they are the ones who made an agreement they're not happy
unless
with?
the other party is deviating on the agreement, then that's a different story. Yeah,
Infringement.
Then they're infringing kwabona then.
So what then in that set? Hey, I sense him. Because
You can always re-record your music.
Yeah.
Yo, dude.
It's a fine line.
What you're saying, the first sentence of many contracts actually starts with, do you allow us to own any sort of remixes? It literally says that
how it's
a radio
done, the way it's
They cover
done.
all of the
that's the
clauses.
first line of the contracts, like 80% of the contracts I go through. So already, even if you do a radio edit or any version belongs to them.
And it's so funny that someone else can do that, but you can't. Someone else can make a cover of your song, but you can't even.
That is
cover your own
interesting.
song.
That's interesting. That is so interesting, actually.
So you've when up Mobi in your line of work, like thus far, you haven't worked with any other international labels or haven't received any offers that were quite tempting.
Yeah, what's the red tape look like when it comes to
or do you stay away from
No. I mean, in the past, I've worked with some labels. Well, I worked with an international for quite some time on a licensing agreement
Yeah.
with Sony. I consider them as international.
They are.
And then smaller labels like I've worked with the Vega family a lot. I've worked with Louis Vega, Vega Records. Worked with Anane on Nulu Music. But that was like when I was still independent. When I was in the Sony construct, I never really dabbled outside. Yeah, it's only now that I'm getting back into that kind of thing. And I'm talking to a couple of labels now, internationally. Yeah.
Is that, by the way, do you find that that's a better way of doing things as opposed to, let me say, doing it under yourself or independently?
You see, when it comes to these things, there's no better.
There's no.
Yeah, there's no
you
better.
must take an
or
L
worse.
somewhere.
It's about you and your context.
What you want.
It's case by case.
Okay.
Well, what works for you in this particular time or in this particular point in your journey? Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's why I don't like the conversation of independence over any deal, whatever. It depends.
What works
It depends
at the
what is appropriate for this artist, where they are in their journey right now.
I agree. That makes a lot of sense. I agree. Because sometimes you must just take the deal to get to where you want to get to, or depending what the deal looks like, just because someone once said, I remember a friend of mine, he does TV work, and he was like, sometimes really we said yes to a bad deal just so we can say yes to better deals in the future.
Stepping stone.
Yeah, that's what he said. So maybe it's another way of looking at it
That's
like that.
exactly my point.
Okay, I guess that's good advice. I love that advice. It's good advice.
It.
Oh, Mob, how long have we been on air?
Hour 30.
I knew
Yeah.
it. I knew it. So I want to go back a little bit because one thing everyone here was shocked about, but people didn't know about, is that rapper. Ne.
I'm an MC. I'm an MC to the core. And
Never
in
stop,
a minute
never
or
die.
two, you'll know that for sure.
Nazi rhymes is So where I'm going with this is we see a lot of cross-genre stepping, do you get me? And I'm just wondering is that something you've ever thought about, and would you advise someone to do that, to cross-genre? Step into?
Not really. I don't really believe in that. I mean, me being a rapper and a hip-hop producer and a writer, it was part of my journey to finding myself as a DJ, which is where I found comfort. Okay, this is how I want to position myself as a DJ, producer, based on my strengths and weaknesses and what I'm confident in. That's where I found comfort, and then I stuck to that. But now for someone to jump, in between, next thing you're a rapper, next thing you're a DJ, next thing you're a dancer, I don't really believe in that. I believe in niche and mastering that particular thing. I believe in mastery. Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you believe in what do you believe in? Schwaz, real quick.
I mean, Dr. Dre, I believe in that. Just do one thing. Everything has its own evolution. I believe if you're a rapper, yes, you can dabble in producing. But as far as, if you're sticking within your genre, I think. But at the same time, look at what Dre did. Like, he went from being a DJ with disco to being a record label executive to being a rapper. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for this one.
But was that in stages or not
In
all
stages,
at the same time?
yeah, not all at the same time. Not all at the same time. In stages of maturity.
Because we are seeing it happen obviously a lot. Are you guys not seeing? Oh, am I the only one who's seeing it happen?
With?
No, I mean there's some people who you saw them being pioneers in a certain genre. Like for instance, Major League. Major League, we knew them as hip hop DJs.
Oh, is it?
Then they went to this thing of being quite a hip hop and then fully piano. So I'm
And
just
then now,
and
back to
now
house.
I've back to Afro because they just
Okay,
released an
Afro,
Afro song,
Take it,
Afro
take it,
song.
take it.
So I'm wondering, Guti, is it is that mentality limiting when you think stick to your thing?
Eish, man.
Stick to.
Yenza
I don't
whatever.
know. I don't know.
Yenza le nto ufuna uyenza.
Yenza, man.
So I guess it's do whatever works for you, I guess.
As long as ulala
Yeah,
ufit.
Yenza le nto ufuna uyenza.
Mm.
So-
But yeah, but though you do get resistance though in certain markets.
You do.
Once you veer away from what you're known for, like in the Afro house space or in the dance space. Like if now you randomly just drop an Amapiano song,
Yeah.
it's not really, you're losing street cred.
Yes, you are. Yeah, but that's serious in a way.
Oh, for which market though? I wanna a problem. The market here, like, I don't like this market. The market here, like it's too directional based. Like when's the piano?
When's the piano or
But the overseas,
when's house?
yo, you see wenza izinto ezi 10,000. It's him. It's a song. It's a song.
It's a
like,
song.
I don't
Or
understand the
DJ base
ecosystem.
overseas because nyani bazofika badlale yonke into.
But
in
isn't
one
it
set.
because maybe we are entrenched in culture? Isn't that maybe a prehistoric thing?
I think
It is
I think it's close-mindedness
That
to
we're
some
cultured,
extent. Me
that we're
personally,
too.
narrow-minded.
it's
Yeah,
narrow-mindedness,
because-
close-mindedness. Let's be
see.
honest. Let's be honest. No, it is. It's being. I think so, and I say that. If your mind is not open to or exposed or open to certain things or certain realities, then you're gonna see it in a certain way. It's like how it may also be a resistance to the unknown. That's what I think. This is what you know, and let me say, as your supporter, for instance, I know you for this. Now, if you go to something else, then I don't want you to touch that anymore. This is because you don't know. How do you know that you're not gonna like it? For instance, so I don't know. It's there's various ways of viewing it, but that's how I view it. It's a resistance and a close-mindedness to some extent. Let's be open-minded,
I don't know.
guys.
Hey,
Let's be open-minded when it
Just
comes
had
to
a photo of
music.
myself doing an Amapiano song. I've got heart palpitations right now.
If you don't want to, then you shouldn't.
I don't know.
That's the most
And
important.
fun enough, my dad has been saying, "Go get a piano, man. Go."
But I think my other brother asked me the same thing. Actually, just use your name then, okay? Because maybe your name carries a certain weight, when it comes to like people that are purchasing your music. It doesn't necessarily sometimes always have to be you in the front. I struggle with that, but he made a lot of sense when he put it down. And I'm like, "Iwana san." But he says, so we take Mobi Dixon, right? And we say, yeah, just as we end then. So he keeps his style, but because of the brand name, we're just going to use the brand power instead of you having to go sit there and see yourself doing that. I mean, that's what Dr. Dre and them do. Like, it's a group of composers. At the end of the day, they're just looking at the brand, not you, your personality. But I don't want to do Amapiano.
Okay, bane Elias funding.
Hey, there's many ways to skin the cat.
But Elias releases some other genre. Bane Elias releases some other genre.
Alright, so boy.
So I want us to try and wrap up nicely. We've talked about a bunch of stuff, in my opinion, and you've shared on so much. And I think that with the knowledge that we've talked about and everything that you've shared on, anyone can take something from it. The first thing in my our transition towards wrapping up is, in this day and age, first of all, someone this out of sight, out of mind thing is such a reality. Do you find that that's something that's a reality for you as well? Does that?
It definitely is, because now people's eyeballs are on screens, on their smartphones. Everything is there. It's like, if you're not visible there, people have this illusion that you'll go, because now everything is so centered around that. And not only when it comes to artists, think of just traditional marketing of brands.
Yeah.
Check now how more digital marketing now is much bigger now than it ever was, because for a brand, they'd rather invest on a digital campaign now than a billboard.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess that's a different way of looking at it, because I was thinking, Oti, is looking at someone's following an adequate judgment of the work.
what is the work?
What is the work?
Are we talking the talent? Are we
Let's-
talking output, productivity, output?
Yes.
Are we talking
The work. Let's talk the work. That's what I'm like for instance, I actually looked at some of the artists, some of the producers from that we enjoyed music from back in the day, and I realized actually their social media following is actually not that good. But the music
because we were in an era where there was no social media
Yeah.
at all. So it's different to the guys who grew up in the social media. You know, your first experience of a phone was in high school with a smartphone. You know, you're able to adapt more to this whole culture of social media, and you're able to get more following because your peers are also born into this new system.
Okay.
So it doesn't reflect the talent, definitely not. To some extent, though, it's linked to your productivity output. Like how much songs are you dropping, or whatever. How active are you, and how many people are following you or subscribing you as a result of your activity and your productivity output.
Yeah.
So it is kind of linked, hence why it's used as a metric by many brands and many promoters even to judge, to gauge whether they book you or not.
Okay, I'll park that at the
So unfortunately it is, but it does one thing it does not and can never reflect is the talent. You know, because there's people who don't even have any social media and are sitting with talent out there.
It's true. That's true. And just to, because I'm coming up with so much in my mind, because it's linking and just final remark on my just final thing on my side before we go to final remarks. Do you feel like you're at a place, like considering your journey in your life, where you've balanced your personal professional life, or was there a point in your life where you felt like you still need to get a hang of this
You know
balance?
what, in entrepreneurship, what I've come to realize, balance does not exist.
Sure. Okay.
Balance does not exist. Balance is a catalyst of watering yourself or running yourself thin, because you try and balance your business, your personal, your this, that. You've only got 100%. You are dividing it into all these 10s and 20s. Whereas in reality, the biggest people who have made it, there was no balance. There was a season where they had to give 80% to their business. And now they've got in a season where they're comfortable enough to now give 80% to their personal and their family. Thinking that you're going to balance everything at the same time is the biggest mistake people make.
Wow, that's a hot take in my opinion. Actually, I didn't even think about it, but it's interesting. It's a great way to.
It's a myth.
It's a myth. Damn.
Balance is a myth. There will be what do you call them? Innocent bystanders, or what is it? Victims. Collateral damage. There will be. There's casualties. There's sacrifices. There's casualties in making it in life.
It starts and it ends there. You wake up, you're Mobi.
So you can't. So that's why even success is defined differently to individually. Because if you believe success to me is raising children or being a good parent, then you dedicate more time to that than you do to your to whatever else.
Yeah.
And what? There's nothing wrong with that. That satisfies you. That's success to you. But if your success is building a business, you will need to dedicate more time to that business than you dedicate to other things.
That makes sense.
For a season.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's for forever, but for a season, you need to. And takes me back to what I said about those years when I made it. That was the season when I look back in my life where I gave 95%.
Yeah.
And then once I made it, I gave 80%. So there was a lot suffering. So I've lost out on a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and hence why now I'm in a position where, you know, I'm reevaluating things.
Okay.
What is important to me? What is success to me? You know, when I look back at my whole journey and the position and the age that I'm in now.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, man, it's balance is a myth.
It's okay. So then, to close off, then, what would you say to someone, a young artist that looks up to you and has listened to everything that we've talked about today concerning, let me say, the experience they would have in the entertainment and music industry?
Always believe in yourself. Never give up. And always eat your jungle oats.
Ah!
That's it. If you want to win, you must eat jungle oats.
And right there is where we definitely conclude this podcast. Thank you so much
That's
for doing it.
literally
Thank you so much.
The statement. Jungle oats.
Thank you so much, Mobi, for coming to the pod.
Thanks, guys.
So into part 2 at
so-
some point.
Yeah, no.
So I'll say,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. We enjoyed the input that you've had to give to us on the podcast today, and I'm pretty sure everyone else is going to enjoy watching it as well.
So much.
So, with that said, Side Sessions signing out.
Bye-bye.
Mobi, do you want to sign out?
I did.
Oh, Side Sessions then
Drop
with
the mic.
Mobi Dixon.
Drops the mic.
Yeah. Signing out. Mwah.
Yes.
Yo.